Page.
I don't know the page. Shlishi. Chumash. So we're continuing the laws about responsibilities of borrowers, guardians, renters, seduction, sorcery, bestiality, idolatry, exploitation, and loans.
Wow.
On page 462. If a man lets his animals loose in a field or vineyard, and he thereby lets his animals trample. He lets his animals trample, or graze in another field, another person. Meitav Sadeu, he shall the best of his own field, the best of his own vineyard, Yishlem, he has to make restitution. Says Rashi, we're talking here, Yavir, Be'iroi, Be'er, Beis Ayin Reish, is all ideas of animals, animal damages. Says Rashi, Ki Yavir, what does it mean? He lets, what does it mean? The exact case is, he lets his animals into the vineyard of his fellow man and damages it in one of these two ways. Either shiluach or bir. And the rabbis explain shilach is nizke midrach kaf regel. The rabbis in the Gemara explain shilach is trampling. Bir hu nizke shein ha'echaz muveres. And a tooth is that which eats and consumes. Stay acher in another field. Meitav Sedei Yishalem. He shall pay the best of his own field. So we evaluate here's how it works. We evaluate the damage, the value that was damaged. And if he comes to pay with property, you could pay with all types of stuff, money, with property, then you have to pay the best quality of your land. So let's say it's a sella, a certain coin worth of damage. You have to give a sella's worth of land from your best fertile land. So therefore the verse Torah is teaching us that for this particular payment back, it has to be from the best quality land.
Is he paying him with land, or is he paying him with?
If you choose to pay with land, it has to be. There's three types of land: high grade, medium grade, and low grade. If you don't give cash and you choose to give land, you just have to pay the best quality of your land. Even though there's no difference. For example, an acre of lower quality land and a quarter acre of good quality land is the same, let's say, $1,000 value on the market. Nonetheless, the Torah says you have to give the best land because that's easier to sell. It's more lucrative and it's easier for the guy to flip and get cash for it, and then build up his damaged things. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, in a way, actually, when I read this, I figured, well, he's just paying for the loss of the fruit of the land, and he's going to pay with the fruit from his best land, as opposed to capital. It's the difference between income and capital.
So we're not obviously it's not capital punishment, or is it, or not?
No. I mean an asset versus.
Asset. Okay. Just as you know that this is called nezikin, right? This is the laws of nezikin damages. And there's other things you're going to see you pay for. Like if you default on a loan, they're allowed to certain times to go seize property from you to pay it back, collateral. But in nezikin, for damages, you have to give the best currency. So that could be cash. That could be movable property that's like cash. It's easy to sell, like, apples are easy to sell in the market. Land, as you know, land is not the best commodity if you need the cash value, right? If I give you, I give you an old gas station, a land that had a gas station on it, which is really bad, very hard to sell, and I pay you with that. So I'm giving you theoretically and market value. Let's say it's worth $100. This oil-ridden old gas station land. It's $100. I do 100. You're 100. The Torah says no. If you're paying for damages, you got to give lucrative stuff, either cash or really easy to sell land, which is the best quality land. Even though it's the same money value, bad quality, a larger quantity, or good quality land, a smaller quantity, but in reality, hot land is more easy to sell and get the guy the money he wants.
Okay, but I don't want to take up the whole time with this, but let me just pose the question one more time to try to clarify.
You're saying it seems clear. I think I got your question. It says you ruined someone's apples, so pay with your apples.
Right. Yeah. In other words, the trampling is a temporary damage, but giving land is loss of a permanent asset. So,
this
same
is
idea.
So I'm not going to get into why I can't say why the Talmud does that. You don't have to pay with land. That's my main point. You don't have to pay land. You could give whatever. If you want to give cash or apples, you could do that. We're saying in the event you give land, you have to make it easy to sell land. This point.
All right. I get that. All right.
So it's not an onerous consequence. It's not like, punishing him overload,
Mhm.
All right. Hey, if fire spreads and catches onto thorns and a corn stack, stand in the corn or in the field, or the field itself is consumed, shalem yishalem. You have to pay. Hamaver espeira, the one who the blaze must pay. So now we're talking damages about fire. Before we had damages of an animal damaging someone's property. Hey, in Rashi, when a fire spreads, in the Gemara and Bava Kama say even if it spreads on its own, meaning you lit a fire in your own property and it's spread by itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to pay for that. It catches onto thorns. I guess that's the stuff that is spreading the fire.
Yeah.
It goes up quick. Yeah, v'nechal gadish, and a corn stack. Good morning, Howard. We're at verse number 5. Hey, shlishi, the third Aliyah, and pin chayinu, it's 44. Rashi, v'nechal gadish. A corn stack is consumed. Shelicha b'koitim ad shegi lagadish elakama hamchores karka. And the fire licked the thorns until it, as it says, it was flammable, and then it reaches the corn stack or good standing grain, or the field. So it says the fire scorches a furrowed field, a plowed field, which costs time and effort and money to make a field ready. And then this guy ended up burning his friend's plowed field, and the guy's going to plow it again. So the law is the one who killed the blaze must pay, even though. So what's the chidush? What's the novelty? Of course, you're chayiv for something you caused. The chidush, the novelty is that even though you lit it in your own property and it's spread by itself via the thorns onto which it caught. So you might say, well, the guy who wasn't shooting the guy's apple orchard. He was, he made a campfire and it accidentally got out of hand. No. Because he didn't properly guard it, whatever it would have taken to guard it, responsible for fire. All right, Vav 6. If a man gives his fellow man money or articles for safekeeping, and it is stolen from the man's house, If the thief is found, he has to pay double. I think we mentioned that yesterday a little bit, right? About if you steal, you got to pay double.
Is it different?
Well, this is a different case about stealing.
Some are fifth, some are.
So yesterday was usually it's double. The exception is a sheep and an ox. You got to pay four times for a sheep, 5 times for an ox. All right, so Rashi in 6. What's the case we're talking about here? I want to point out the verses here are a little bit vague. If we don't know the context, that's a Rashi quoting the Talmud is giving us the context. Stolen from the man's house. Lafi dvarov, the guy's claiming. So you're giving something to a custodian, something to watch. And the guy claims it was stolen. So if the thief is found, then Yishalom Maganim Shnaim Lebailim. Then let's say, some outside thief stole it. Indeed, he's got to pay double. But that's the case continues in verse 7, Zion. If you don't find the thief, then what do? The owner's sad that he wants his money back. His thing was lost, and the custodian says it was stolen. So the owner of the house shall approach the judges, meaning the custodian, the watcher, approaches Elohim, means the judges. He has to swear that it was stolen, and he's believed, as long as he himself did not misappropriate it and start using the stuff before it was stolen. Let's see Rashi Zion. If the thief is not found, and the guardian, which is the Baal Habayis, the owner of the house, that's what it says, the Baal Habayis, I gave it to you to watch in your house. You're the Baal Habayis. And he has to basically go, the owner of the house, the custodian, the guardian, he has to go.
The person is watching.
With the watcher. The guardian has to go with the owner of the object who's watching to Beis Din and swear that I never touched it and I guarded it appropriately and it was stolen.
Mm.
So what's the din? What's the law? Ches. So I'll call Dvar Pesh al Shar al Chamar al Sel Salma al Kolaveda Shemer Ki Huzeh. Every type of dishonesty, whether it involves an ox, donkey, sheep, garment, or any lost article, that the witness says that this here is the allegedly lost article. Yavai Dvar Shneim, their case come before the judges. Asher Yarshin Elohim Yishalom Shem L'Re'ehu, whom the judges find guilty shall pay double to his fellow man. A little bit cryptic. Let's see what Rashi says. In every case of dishonesty. So we're saying what happens is, so if the guy, the watcher, was proven to be a liar, he stole it himself.
Right.
Why? Because witnesses came forth and they said that he was the one who stole it. And the judges verified the witness's testimony, then indeed he is wicked, the 2 witnesses. Then what's the din? He's got to pay double.
Wow.
The verse tells us that the one who claims that it was stolen, but he stole it, he's got to pay double. So and when is this? So when though does he become liable? There's some qualification. When he first swore that it was stolen, and then the witnesses came. That's what the rabbis in the Gemara, Bava Kama, say. That the verse we said is V'nikrav Baal Habayis. We said in the verse before, V'nikrav Baal Habayis El Elohim. The watcher, the house owner, approaches the judges. That approaching is a euphemism for he swore. So he swears, and then they come and say that he's a liar. Now you might say, how do you know the approaching means swearing? Sometimes you can go into court, but you didn't take an oath yet. So maybe even if he just goes to court and then the witness, he's middle of the court case, he never swore. Maybe the witnesses come, then he's busted and he's got to pay too. No, he's got to swear. The approaching means that he approaches and takes an oath at the bench. So the answer is, maybe he just denies it without an oath. And then when he gets busted, he has to pay then, even without an oath. So the question is, does he have to be proven that he was lying under oath to be liable double, or even just lying without an oath is he liable double? So the answer is we have to take the words here that say shlichas yad, that he touched his hand, he misappropriated the stuff under his care. It says it here. It says it else later on in verse 10. It says Shvuas Hashem. It says also the word shlichas yad. This is called a Gemara Gezerah Shava. Similar words are used in two different verses. We learn similarities. So later on in verse 10, it says,
Rabbi,
the oath of Hashem will be between them if he did not misappropriate his hand. So just like there, it says clearly the misappropriating was under oath. Here, when it says he approached and said he didn't shilach yad, didn't touch it inappropriately, misappropriate these things, then it means an oath as well. Yes, you had a question.
yeah, and this is just a broad question. Maybe I could have asked it on Sunday if we were talking. What's the context here? In other words, we're talking about what landowners, a lot of law associated with landowners, and the people are in the desert. This is Shemot.
So this is a fascinating idea. I just want to point, first of all, now we're not talking landowners now. Now we're talking about movable objects that were being watched by somebody.
No. We're talking about law that applies basically to landowners or people who are settled in a given place.
Right. Civilizations. So first of all, this could have happened. This particular case is not land required. I give you my watch, my Rolex to watch. I don't have a Rolex, I have a Casio watch, but let's say I had a Rolex. Watch.
I'm just talking generally speaking.
Generally.
Why is this
Right.
coming up now?
Very, this is a great question. Most civilizations, they make law after they settle the land, right? It's sort of like
Yeah.
ad hoc, but it's like a little bit ad hoc, right? It's like you figure it out as you go. This is the idea. Divine law is not required, is not after the fact, like, let's see who we're dealing with. Let's, do a psychological analysis. The divine law is saying, this is the way it should be. So even though it's totally inapplicable, you're right, it's inapplicable, most of it. But it's saying we learn the law and we apply it when it becomes applicable because it's not dependent upon us being around for it to be law. It's law before we're even around.
They could have at least waited till Numbers, though, when they were, at least contemplating going into the land.
We didn't do
Okay.
Sunday. Maybe we got to start figuring out maybe a slot on Sunday to do it because you have a good point. In the first Rashi of Sunday, it says, these are the laws. So it says in Rashi there, when a section begins with these, it rejects something previous. But whenever a section begins with ve'ela and these are the laws, it's actually adding something previous. So this is exactly the point. Just as the commandments written in the previous section were received at Sinai, the Big Ten, right? So to these laws, even though they're more
Okay.
these a lot of
All right. I understand. Sorry
All right.
to suck up time here. I know we got
we
a
gotta
lot of
finish
stuff
by
going on here.
We got to finish by 9:40, so let's move on. Okay, so the next Rashi, Asher Yomer Kihuzeh, he says, this is here. So the plain sense of the verse means the witnesses say, this is here. It didn't get stolen. It's here in his house. You swore falsely. It's actually by you. He says it to the judges. Yavad Dvar Shneim. He comes to the judges. He comes to the judges and they cross-examine the witnesses. Okay. Yeah, they come to witnesses, Yavid Varshnam, Yakros, Eidos, Ksherim Hem, Yarshiu, L'Shem Rezeh, Yisham Shnaim. Yeshua Sat Eidim, Shimsu, Shleim, Misham, Leim, Shem, L'Shem. Basically, their case should come for the judges, they cross-examine them. If they're found to be true and the judges find this trustee guilty, he shall pay double to the owner. And if they find the witnesses guilty, then they were found to be conspiring, they got to pay double, which is another law we learn about conspiring witnesses. If they say so-and-so owes $1 million and they're totally lying and they're doubling down, they're lying in their oath in court, when they get busted by other witnesses, that these witnesses are lying, they got to pay what they tried to make someone guilty of. The rabbis of blessed memory, Bava Kama, expounded the words kihu zeh to teach another important thing. So it's a few things it's teaching. It's that it's the law. You're only chayiv, you're only liable for an oath. You stole. You have to. Do I make you have to swear by any claim I have against you? So they say no. Biblically, if I claim that you owe me money, you're only liable if you admit partially. You say like, Mike, you owe me $100. I owe you $10. That partial admission shows there's something going on here. And now you biblically have to swear an oath that you only owe me 10 and not the full 100. If you were to deny it outright, I owe you nothing, then biblically you don't have to swear. Rabbinically, they made an oath, but it's a lesser strict oath. It's a lesser, severe oath. So that's called moide b'miktsas. The biblically one is you admit miktsas partially. Kofer ba'kol is, I forgot the name of the oath, but it's when you deny everything. Okay, test 9. If a man gives his fellow man a donkey, an ox, a sheep, or any other animal for safekeeping, and it dies or is injured or seized without any eyewitnesses, so when a man gives his fellow man a donkey, an ox, a sheep, or any other animal for safekeeping, and it dies or is injured or seized without any eyewitnesses. Okay, let's see what happens in Rashi. The first section discussed trustees is about a unpaid trustee, an unpaid guardian. Watch my watch as a favor. Therefore, it exempted him from any theft. As it says, if it was truly stolen and he swears it was stolen, then he is putter from the payment. He doesn't have to pay for the loss because he's doing a favor. This section is now talking by a shemer sachar. A shemer sachar is somebody who was paid to watch. As it's written, it's written, if it gets stolen from him, he has to pay. But so if it's stolen, if I pay you, you have to make sure it gets stolen. That's the insurance. You're responsible if it gets stolen. But if a crazy accident happened to it, for example, I give you a sheep and it dies, or I give you a sheep and it gets stolen by armed robbers. I can only prevent against a key guy, hide it from a guy who's not armed. But an armed robber, I can't protect him. And there's no one that sees what happened. You're claiming though, Ein Roa says there's no one that saw. You're claiming that it was stolen, but you're paid. So the law is in 10. Shvuas Hashem Tia Ben Shneim, an oath has to be administered between them. Shomer, the guardian, has to say, Im lo yishalach yadav b'mlechas reu. Again, he has to swear he did not misappropriate it. Once you touch something that you're watching, it's like you now have full liability. So if I give you a Rolex, you have to put it in the safe and not touch it. Once you put it on your wrist after, you're now liable. 1 second, let's finish up. So we said shvua happens between them. Its owner has to accept the oath, and the guardian does not have to pay. Says Rashi 10, shvua Hashem tia, an oath has to be between them. He swears that this is like his words. The trustee shall swear that what happened was true and that he did not misappropriate the entrusted object by using it for himself. For if indeed he did misappropriate and afterwards an accident happened to it, he is liable even for accidental loss. Exactly what I just said. Lokach ba'alav, his owner shall take an oath for lo yishalem, and he doesn't have to pay anything to the owner of the Rolex. If it was actually stolen from him, if it was stolen, he has to pay the owner. Because I said, this paid guardian has to make sure that non-armed theft doesn't happen to the object. That's what he's getting paid for. I'm just going to finish the ideas and we'll talk about it. If it was in fact mauled, the animal, it was a sheep, let's say, and the sheep got mauled, he has to provide witnesses to this, that he need not pay for the mauled animal. So it says, let's say you're watching a sheep and it gets mauled through a wild animal, he has to bring a witness that it was a circumstance beyond his control. It was an ones. Ones means a uncontrollable accident. The pater, then he's pater. He does not pay for the mauled animal. So it's interesting. It doesn't say treifa. It doesn't say a mauled animal. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to pay for the mauled. It says like not a Range Rover, the Range Rover, the mauled animal. What's this like? What are we supposed to know about this type of mauled animal? So it's saying that there are certain types of mauled animals, destroyed animals, a mauled sheep that you're pater for, you're innocent, and some that you're actually liable for. What's the example? If it's let's say a cat or a fox or a leopard, these are small animals that you could chase away. Not a leopard, these are more like a weasel. These are small animals you could chase it away. Then you were a paid guardian. You should have chased it away. It got destroyed. It's your problem. You got to pay for it. But if it was a wolf, a lion, a bear, a snake, things that are very dangerous to try to chase away, then you don't have to pay for it. Now the Rashi says, "Who told you this verse this way? How do you know this? For it's written in verse 9, if it dies or is injured or seized, meaning it compares death that cannot be avoided, so to injury or seizure that could not have been avoided, meaning a grizzly bear, not a cat or that destroys, that mauls the sheep." So that we just talked about two of the four cases of guardianship. One is a unpaid, a shomer chinam, and one is a paid guardian, a shomer sachar. So David had a question though.
Yeah, so in the beginning, even it talked about an oath, right? It's a big deal, an oath, when you swear.
Right.
And it didn't indicate, the penalty for doing that if you did it. It just talked about stealing. So I'm confused.
You're saying for lying an oath, you deserve some punishment.
Well, there's no question we get that.
That's another din for the violation of a lied oath. I think there's a carbon you have to do. There's a separate thing, but here we're talking that it's more about there's two claimants. Who do we believe, and who is guilty in certain cases? So irrelevant of what his punishment for lying is
under oath.
We're talking about though the money that's involved here. What has to happen, and I think part of that is the fact that if you lie, I think part of the
Penalty.
The penalty that makes you think twice of lying is that if you get caught
Under oath.
you get caught under oath lying, you're going to pay double. So is it worth it to risk it? You think twice. It's not just like a zero-sum game. If I lie, I got to pay $100. If I don't lie, I have to give back $100. And if you don't lie, you got to pay $200. All right, Yud Gimel 13. So if a man now borrows something from his friend and it breaks or dies, he must pay since its owner was not working for him. Yeah. Yud Gimel. The verse comes to teach you about one who borrows an object that he's liable for accidental loss or damage. Its owner is not with him. If the owner of the ox was not working with the borrower. Its owner is not with him means if the owner of the ox was not working with the borrower. So here we go. So basically, a borrower is the most liable. If I lend you my lawnmower, I want my lawnmower back. Don't tell me it gets stolen. Even an armed robber comes and steals your lawnmower, It's yours. Hey, I lent it to you. You have to pay back. Now, there's an exception, even if the animal, I believe, even if it dies, I'm not sure about that. Yeah, even if it dies, you got to pay. The exception is if the owner was, I'm doing your landscaping and I come with my lawnmower, right? Let's say I'm doing you a favor. I'm going to help my neighbor do the lawn, and I help out for the beginning. Show you how to do the lawnmower, and I help do part of the lawn. The fact that I'm there as well is makes it not a regular type of borrowing, and therefore you'd be exempt if it gets. Basically, if I'm doing work for you and I'm lending you something, then I forfeit rights if it gets an accident to it, if it dies. Okay, 14. If the owner is working for him, he need not pay. If the item is rented, though, meaning I'm lending you my lawnmower, I'm charging you, if it was received for its rent, therefore the renter is not totally liable. The case of Rashi says, 14, whether it be in the same work that the borrower is doing or other work, if he was with him at the time of, if he also did some work for the borrower anywhere on his property, the owner, the lender, the borrower doesn't get, he need not be working for him at the time he was damaged or died. If he was rented, okay, if it was rented, if the ox was not borrowed but rented, if it was received by the person who hired it for its rent, it's not like a borrowing, and therefore the benefit from the ox is not entirely his, for only by paying its rent to the owner is he using it. Therefore, the law of a borrower to be liable even for accidental loss or damage does not apply to him. However, so basically the borrower has to even pay under normal circumstances, even for accident or death of the animal. But renter doesn't. But it doesn't say what the law is. Renter, it doesn't say, is he like a unpaid trustee or is he like a paid watchman? Because when I rent something to you, you're also like a guardian. So the fact that you're paying for it, does that make it like I'm now, I'm paying you to borrow your car. So now while I have it, am I like doing my watching it? Is that sort of thrown in as like a favor because I want to rent it, but I'm not more washing beyond at a very high level? Or am I getting it, and have a certain responsibility of a paid trustee? The Chachamim, the sages argue in the Talmud as to how he must pay for the loss. Right? Meir said he must pay like an unpaid trustee, but Yochanan says he pays like a paid trustee. Okay, that finishes the 4 laws of 4 guardians: renter, borrower, unpaid guardian, paid guardian. We'll do a little bit more, then I'm gonna have to leave because I have to go somewhere. 15. If a man seduces a virgin who's not betrothed, unmarried, and he lies with her, he must take her as a wife with a full marriage contract. What's going on here? If a man seduces a virgin, this is speaking where she acquiesces. This is not rape. This is also how Onkelos translates it. He persuades her. Shadel is persuasion. So the law is he shall assign for a dowry as the practice. Mahar means a dowry as the practice of man to give his wife. He shall write for a marriage contract, a ksuba, and marry her. This, of course, is she agrees, right? This is not forced marriage. It's just a deterrent for him to do this. She has all the rights in her. If her father, she's a minor, her father firmly refused to give her a marriage, so then he doesn't get away scot-free. He shall pay out money according to the monetary payments for virgins. What is that? Rashi says the monetary payment. This is fixed as 50 silver shekels. We'll see about later on, in the case of rape, 50 silver shekels.
It's a dowry, it's a schedule for dowry of virgins, like the
Right.
federal government.
Exactly. Right, exactly. The man who lay with the girl shall then give the girl's father 50 silver shekels. 17, mechashef l'sechaya. You may not let a sorceress live. Witch hunt. You can't, someone produces black magic, they're liable for death. This is liable for the court by death by court. This applies to males and females, but the verse specifies a female sorceress, because that was more common back then. Okay. Let's see how much more we have to go. I guess we're gonna have to end here. So do the rest yourself. And we'll catch you tomorrow, 9 o'clock.
Go on.
Cash God.